Well, hello and welcome to Understand Men Now. I'm Jonathan Asley of jonathanashley.com, and I'm so excited to be doing this live stream for you today. Our topic, Men Fall in Love Different from Women, Part 2, Part 2. All right, really quickly, if you're brand new to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if any time during this video the content resonates with you, please hit that like button so I can be seen in the YouTube algorithms. Really quickly, my coaching is what I call heart-centered radical honesty. It's direct, a little tough love, and a lot of heart. And occasionally I use expletives to enhance a sentence. So if you don't mind, if you please excuse an F-bomb or two, or if that's an F-bomb or two turns you off, then I suggest logging off right now. Lastly, these are my thoughts, my perceptions, my opinions. By no means do I suggest this is the truth. You have to decide the truth for yourself. I'm a bit of a contrarian, so my advice goes contrary to public opinion and traditional expectations. All right, let's get into Men Fall in Love Different Than Women, Part 2. Now, the reason why we have Part 2 is yesterday when I was doing my live stream, the power went out in my complex and the internet went out. So literally, I was right in mid-sentence sharing something, and this all went kaplooey. And so if you watched part one or the first one, you'll notice that about 21 minutes in, the screen goes black for about 7 minutes, and I couldn't control this. You know, it's interesting. I had a woman share to me the exact same thing happened to her on the other part of the country. I live in Southern California. You can see, hopefully you can see I have an ocean view. She was on the other part, said the same thing happened. So maybe there was a solar flare or something that happened. So I want to finish up the conversation. I'm certainly going to take questions in a few minutes because if you know my live stream, I do take questions. Before I do, I want to share something with you very personal that affected me. And my hope is, my hope is to gain some clarity on why I approach my live streams with a lot of passion. And that passion also includes a bit of yelling in the process. So, and let me tell you what the impetus was for it. Shortly after the live stream was aired yesterday, I received a phone call. I didn't actually take the phone call. It went into voicemail, but I heard the voice message. And it was a woman berating me over the phone. She was calling me a jackass. She was calling me an asshole. She was calling me a misogynist. She was saying, you're a fucking piece of shit and you don't deserve to be doing what you're doing. And it's no wonder that you are single. I felt like she went all Will Smith on me. And I'm now calling it, you know, we used to call it a Karen. Now I'm going to call it a Will Smith. And this deeply affected me. I mean, it deeply affected me because I'd like to think I'm an advocate for women. I'd like to think I'm your big brother. I've always say I'm your big brother. And if I was there on a first date, I'd have the shotgun pointed at the guy's face and say, you know, I'd point it at the guy's face saying, you know, what are your intentions with my sister? My beef isn't with women. My beef is not with men. My beef is with hypocrisy. I'm going to repeat that, my hypocrisy. And part of the reason for the hypocrisy, and let me explain what I mean in a moment, is the unconscious expression of blaming other people for one's own choices. I'm going to repeat that, blaming other people for one's own choices. I call this suckling on the nipple of victim consciousness. And I don't mean nipple as a female nipple. I mean, whether it's a man or woman, you're suckling on your own nipple of victim consciousness. And I'm not a big proponent of victim consciousness. So when I see victim consciousness, I yell at the top of my lungs. And let me give you an example of, or by the way, victim consciousness and hypocrisy. Those are my two big beefs. Victim consciousness and hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is this belief that ladies, you're good communicators in relationship. And I've habitually witnessed women who are not good communicators in relationship, or do they actually speak up for themselves? And I know many of you do, and many of you don't. So that's part of the hypocrisy. And the victim consciousness is continually blaming others instead of looking inward. This is why I recommend book after book after book after book. And she criticized me for recommending books as if I'm not worthy of recommending this. And by the way, there's a book I want to talk about today that will change your life. It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Please, there's a link below to Jonathan Recommends book. If you want to learn how to talk to the voices in your head that creates victim consciousness, that creates hypocrisy, please read this book. It will change your life. It will change your life. And I've given this book to, by the way, this is not an easy read. Oh, really? One quick caveat. Only read one chapter in any given sitting and no more than 2 chapters in a day. Do not read more. It's too intense. And yet it will change your life. So I even had this woman who left this voice message for me, really, like I said, affected me because, and I have to look inside. Do I act angry? Probably a little bit. I do act a bit angry. I'm going to own that. And I'm going to endeavor to come at this approach with a little more compassion. This is why my weekend videos are a bit more compassionate. Today, I'm doing it on my balcony, this Saturday morning live stream for y'all. And I know some of you are like, when are you going to get to the point of the topic? Folks, this is an important conversation. Whether you want, it's not about understanding the differences between men and women. It's understanding the differences within yourself. The hypocrisy within yourself, the victim consciousness within yourself. That is the more important journey, because if you can shed all the weight that most of us are feeling. Do you know the number one emotional health issue for the average person is I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, and I'm not likable? This is why I wrote my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A journey of personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. So we can create a vaccination to emotional chaos that comes from this deep pain most humans are feeling, maybe not even cognitively. I will tell you, a lot of people don't realize that they have deep pain inside. We'll come back to Will Smith for a moment. His outburst was because this guy has some real deep-seated pain, and he has most likely some twisted emotions going on within himself and unhealthy dynamics that caused him to outburst in such a way. This is why that woman who left me a nasty message, I send her love, because think of how much pain it takes for someone, how much pain someone's experienced to call up a stranger on the phone and berate them the way she did about me. So I send this person love because she doesn't know who I am. By the way, folks, if our lives were examined under a microscope, we can judge every human being as bad. We've all done things that we're not proud of. We've all done things that maybe might have hurt someone else either intentionally or unintentionally. As a father, I know I've done jackass things that was unintentional that hurt my children. Sometimes intentional, but sometimes it was just. As a matter of fact, I remember getting angry at my son once because he was so belligerent at a birthday party that I erupted just like Will Smith. And I didn't. And by the way, I actually hit my children. So we talk about violence. Oh my gosh. Yes, I've made mistakes. Sometimes it's just in the heat of something. Slapped on the butt is more like what I'm talking about when I say hitting my children. And I'm not, and I don't absolve myself of that behavior. I'm not proud of it. This is a deep scar that I'm holding just for that. I remember 1 or 2 actions that deeply still to this day, and I must forgive myself. And sometimes that's hard to do. But I only share all of this because we're all human. We all make mistakes. Because in some ways, we're not different in the way we fall in love. We're very human. One of the differences between men and women is men have been taught to stuff their emotions. We as boys have been told to stuff our emotions. Be a man. Be a man. Don't show emotion. How do you think that affects us as adults, for us baby boomer Gen Xers? Now we have a bunch of snowflake children because the pendulum swung the other way. And there's got to be a healthy balance. But I was told, ladies, sadly, you were taught a different lesson. You were taught to be pretty and charming and nice. We were taught to stuff our emotions and use violence to demonstrate our masculinity. That's what we were literally taught, whether it was football or the sports we played and things like that. So is it any wonder humans are rather dysfunctional? Is it any wonder that we operate differently? Because boys are taught one thing and girls are taught another thing. And then this whole narrative that men are emotionally unavailable. Men are thirsty to want to connect to their emotional side. They're thirsty on some level, because if they've stuffed it, imagine the volcano that is ready to erupt within men. And that's why sometimes the venting, what happened to Will Smith, isn't just a simple example. And again, I'm not absolving his behavior. I'm in no way, and whether he's grandiose and narcissistic, that his wife, all that stuff, I don't care. What I care more is about you, the individual. I care about you finding that inner peace within yourself. And all of you know that I lost a child. Talk about the most horrific pain a parent can ever feel. And I made a conscious choice. I could grieve with suffering. I could go to the alcohol. I could go to drugs as a way to numb the pain. That's a choice. I could have destructive behavior. That's another choice. I chose to channel it by grieving with love. In fact, that's where my book was birthed from, was from the loss of Connor. I would rather our world be a bit more compassionate than judgmental. That's my invitation for everyone. That's why when I shot the video the other day about Will Smith, it was just, I want to invite compassion and love. Again, I'm not absolving bad behavior. And do I think there might need to be consequences? You know what? I'm not here to judge that one way or the other. I'm here to suggest, how can we find love and compassion for each and every one of us? Because we are not that different. And yet we tend to operate differently based on conditioning, based on biology, based on instinct, based on socialization, based on culture. These are all factors. And then add to it traumas that happen in whether in our childhood or an adult life. And this is a stew within inside of us. And the real journey, in my opinion, is not whether or not you find a mate. The real journey is finding the mate within yourself. That's my invitation for all of you. All right, so let me wrap up the last few that I missed of the men fall in love different from women. Here we go. So I said, let me just recap what I started with part one, is men might experience feelings of love faster. I don't know if I agree with that, but we experience lust faster. Okay. Men may say, I love you first. I do believe that women tend to hold off saying, I love you first, waiting for the man. Number three, women might say, I love you more often. I actually believe that's kind of true. Number four, women may be more skeptical of men's commitment. Sure, because it used to be you had to get married to have sex. Now there's no commitment to have sex. Number five, men are more likely to feel like their love isn't reciprocated. One of the biggest complaints by men after divorce is they never felt appreciated by all their efforts. They didn't. That's one of the common complaints by men. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Women are more likely to focus their love. Women tend to focus more on what they are at least this is my perception. They focus on how much love they're giving, and they hyper focus on that instead of looking, are we a balanced relationship? Are we co-creating a relationship together? I do believe women tend to do that. Men may fall in lust more. What do you think love bombing comes from? Love bombing comes from limerence and lust. Limerence and lust. Women and men look for similar qualities in a long-term partner. I agree with that. I agree. Men and women actually look for similar qualities within a partner. What kind of qualities are they looking for? By the way, we're talking about healthy human beings, not unhealthy human beings. So what qualities are they looking for? Kindness, compassion, fun, play, humor, stability, self-reliance, both men and women, and confidence. Most men and women want the same thing. And lastly, both men and women can love love. I think ultimately there's this belief that we men can't love. And I've witnessed beautiful men. I'm in a circle. I'm in a group of about, I call it my spiritual community, which are about 100 people within this group. It's a beautiful community of friends, roughly about 40 plus couples. And I witnessed that's 80 people, of which 40 are men. And these are men who are fully committed to the relationship. They fully love their partner. They fully love their partner. So, and are communicative and emotional. And you know why I know this? Because we've done group therapy sessions, we've done group workshops together. My circle of friends, we do something called camp, where it's group therapy meets pajama party meets cocktail party, all at someone's homes. We sleeping bag, and we spend the night on the floor. It's a 24, 36-hour event, and we work on our stuff. That's the group. I'm so blessed that I get to hang out with people that go, let's work on our inner world. In fact, my book is one of the things we've talked about in camps before. And I share this with you because, yes, you know what? As depressing as the dating process can be, as much as I say it's a shit show out there are also beautiful human beings that are thirsty for love. And so I draw attention to the negative, and sometimes I do it yelling, and sometimes I'm even critical of women, and I'm critical of men. By the way, my opinion offend you, you should hear what I keep to myself. I'm an equal opportunity of judger of hypocrisy and victim consciousness, as I said in the beginning of this broadcast. And so to that woman who berated me over the phone, who literally threw F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb at me, I invite you to look inside. If you're watching this, you said you unsubscribed and you will tell none of your friends to watch me. I understand my yelling might be a turnoff. My yelling is simply a wake-up call to scream at the top of my lungs to say, folks, it's time. My invitation for everyone, it's time for a new narrative. And yes, I'm a screamer in this particular capacity. By the way, if you watch my weekend videos, I'm very calm. For the most part, I'm very calm. If you watch my shorts, my 60-second shorts, I'm rather calm. I'm actually a fun person to be with. I only yell on my live streams because I'm trying to make a point. So do men fall in love different than women? I think unhealthy behavior such as attachment style, love attachment style, and the imago are the unhealthy reasons people get attached to another human being, the unhealthy reasons people get attached to a human being. And I'm here to invite a more grown-up way. So, are you ready for questions? Okay, so just to recap, when I did the original live stream, I lost my internet connection. This is part 2. I'm just addressing some of the comments that I'd gotten. Now I want to get to the most important part. Did you find value in what I just shared? Did what I say make a difference in your life? Are you working on yourself? I hope so. And I'm ready to take questions. And if you know my format, write the word question, post the question thereafter, or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. This is only for those listening to the live stream. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes, and there's a little $sign in the chat box, goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley, who passed away. And we are donating another $1,000 to the Insight seminars and to the Hoffman process to help their foundation. And this is all coming from your donations in the name of my son, Connor Asley, who passed away. So I'd be honored if you purchase a super sticker, super chat before we wrap up today. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty. I see Kathleen has written a question. Question: do you believe fear will keep a man from embracing love even when he sees it right in front of him? How to help him overcome his fear? It's a great question. In fact, my video tomorrow is about fearful avoidance and how to help that. But here's the problem with people who fear love. Until they can actually find the love within themselves, there's not much you can do to help them overcome that. If you're with a person who genuinely is afraid of love, it could be decades. I'm intentionally saying it could be so long out in the future. Be careful wasting your time with a person who's incapable of truly leaning into a co-creative relationship. Folks, most humans are in dysfunctional relationships because they're unaware that their emotional maturity and relationship skills are rather weak. Most humans are rather dysfunctional in the relationship skills. This is not a fact. This is an opinion. So, Kathleen, don't focus on trying to help him. He's got to help himself. You focus on yourself. Is this the relationship? Are you in it because you're codependent to him? Are you in it because you need him to love you so you can feel good about yourself? Is that why you're in it? Because if you're not co-creating, then listen, women will oftentimes waste somewhere between 4 to 5 years in the wrong relationship or more. 4 to 5 years in the wrong relationship. My feeling is get busy living or get busy dying. Don't invest in a relationship if a person cannot co-create together, unless you're okay with a dependent relationship. Your dependency on him. All right, that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you so much for that question. All right, let's keep going. And watch the video that comes out tomorrow. Leah says, question, what quality in women are you having the most difficulty finding when looking for your match? Oh, so this is a personal question. So well, I'd say probably this is an interesting question. So I'm genuinely looking for a person who is doing personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. I mean, actually doing the work versus reading a book or watching some videos. So that's someone who's really immersed into the work of Buddhism, Kabbalah, just to name a few from a spiritual perspective, Abraham Hicks, Wayne Dyer, healing childhood wounds and traumas, those sorts of things, actually doing the inner work. So that's one of the, it's not a quality, but it's an experience that I would say less than 5% of the population. So right off the bat, 95 out of 100 women probably don't fit into what I'm looking for. I also look to do spiritual journeys with a person. I want to do journeys where we go inward together as partnership. I do believe one of the qualities is women oftentimes are either in their entitled power, they're in their entitled energy, or they're in their doormat energy. And I'm not attracted to either one of those. So I'm looking for a quality of empowerment, of real sovereignty, of real self-love, self-reliance, self-esteem, and also not caught up in, their past mistakes and people that are actually that come at it from a place of a beginner's mind. Last but not least, I want them to be into me. The most important quality is that they're into me. I've gone on dates where, like here in Los Angeles, there's a lot of, I'm dealing with a lot of competition. There are hundreds of men vying for every one woman's attention. So I'm dealing with competition and I don't compete. You're either into me or you're not. And by the way, folks, I'm meeting total strangers. You all know me. You seem to like me because we've been interacting for a long time. When I meet a total stranger, she knows nothing about me. So ideally that she's into me, she's self-reliant, and she's into personal development. Those are the 3 main things I'm looking for. And she wants to do spiritual journeys with me. All right. Thank you so much for that question, Leah. I really appreciate it. All right. Let's keep going. Question, Miss PG says, question, do other women also think it's weird and turn off when men cry, hug, do men's groups, etc.? Do women with men like that tend to cheat with alpha type or fake alpha types? I can't speak for women. Do other women also think it's weird and turn off that men cry? So I suspect from your perspective, there is a biological component that if a man shows a sensitive side, that he can't protect you. There's a belief that a man who shows a sensitive type is a weak person. So I'm not surprised you might feel that way. That's not an uncommon feeling that could be going on. So, so to the extent that other women think it's weird that happens, you know what? Each person's on their own journey. You're entitled to your journey. Men are entitled to their journey. Certainly I cry and I get emotional when I think about my son, Connor, who passed away. I get very emotional over that. I've cried at moments of real compassion and love. I've cried at moments of that. It brings me, I think crying oftentimes is a melting of one's heart. I don't believe it's a weakness. I believe it's a strength. Brene Brown talks about true vulnerability is the most courageous thing. So I invite you to look inward and ask yourself, why is that a turnoff for you? It could be instinctual, which I get. But true courage is true vulnerability, in my opinion. So anyway, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. We're not going to be going much longer today. So let's see, what questions do we have? Pamela Hyde says, do you believe Will Smith lost touch with reality due to his isolation with COVID-19? We no longer know reality versus virtual. So slapping a man on stage is same as sending a terse text. I believe his actions was, I think of that moment when I spanked my son when he was just acting belligerent. I literally had an absolute temporary insanity. And I think in that moment, he had temporary insanity. I'm not absolving that behavior by any stretch of the means. I mean, I think humans need to have self-control. I think he was probably triggered by his wife, my suspicion was. I don't know and I don't know the particulars of their relationships. I don't want to get into the nuances of the why, but I'm sure he was triggered to the belief that he was defending her honor, and he acted in that primal type of way. It's not right. But you know what's good about what happened? It invites a conversation. I think what's more important, rather than all the judgment towards him or Chris Rock or anyone else. And by the way, all these snowflakes feel I was so offended by it. You know what? You know what we should be offended by? There's 1 billion people in India. There are little boys and girls that have to literally take a dump of shit in between cars. You know, you really want to see real problems, then go to a third world country and look at what they're dealing with. Look what people in Ukraine are dealing with. And we are so fucking far removed from reality here in the United States because we're a bunch of it's going to go off. There's a lot of selfishness here in the United States. You really want to learn compassion? Spend time in a third world country and see what they go through. But I can't believe so many people, I was so offended by what he did. Really? Then sue him. Take him to court. If you are so offended by it, take him to court. I mean, you won't, because we got to, we need to, here in the United States, we don't have a backbone anymore. We are a bunch of whiny, bitching, complaining people, victim consciousness. This is why I get so riled up, victim consciousness and hypocrisy. And listen, I have no idea if Will Smith's a good guy or bad guy. I like some of his movies. That's about it. But you know what? I don't like all the judgment, criticism, contempt, because if you look at a person's life under a microscope, like his life is being, and it happens to you, and you know what? This is where karma comes back. I'm a big believer in karma. This is why, believe me, I'm trying my best to really look at the voices in my own head of judgment, criticism, and comparisons. And I invite everyone else to do the same. That's my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth. Thank you so much for that question. We're going to take one more before we wrap up. God, I love all this that's happening on the Q&A. Thank you so much. I know someone says violence should be punished. Okay. Everybody's entitled to what they believe. Question. He blocked me after 9 days, didn't respond. I asked, are you fine? He wrote, only friends and chemistry. We chatted after a month and a half. What's wrong? That's a complicated question. I don't want to get into it because there's so much to unpack there. I have a lot of questions to ask. If you'd like to schedule a free discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you, check it out right here. All right, folks, I've given you my opinions on some things. I know I'm going to be judged for my opinions. This is a perfect example. If I'm judged for my opinions, that proves my point. We spend more time judging people's opinions instead of actually looking inward and saying, how can I genuinely love on myself? How can I work on myself to come from a place of compassion, love, kindness, care, humanity, empathy? If human beings spent less time judging, criticizing, and being in contempt in their righteousness and in their victim consciousness, and spend more time on their own individual compassion, kindness, care, and love, all this, then it's a vaccination to emotional chaos. And that's my invitation for everyone. All right. Thank you for allowing me to enter your homes or your smartphones or your computers today to share this live stream with you. Part 2 of how men fall in love different from women. I hope you found value in this. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Please post a comment below. This resonated with you. If you have something to add, I do my best to read them all. And I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, or a pillow teddy bear, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye now. Let's say goodbye to Sherry and Anita and Miss PG, excuse me, and Kath Hat and LJ and Jane and Pamela and Sherry. There you go. And let's see who else. We said Mr. C, Susan. Everyone, thank you so much. Have a fabulous weekend. Tomorrow, my video comes out about fearful avoidance. Hope you enjoy. Take care. Bye now.